Emperor Khalid pits young Pale and Atreyu against skilled warriors in this gladiatorial game. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Wave 4, collect them all.
And we are live. What's going on, everybody? My camera, I didn't set it up properly. Hold on, let me tweak it ever so slightly. And then I'll leave it. I just won't bother. Let's talk toys, because that's what we do. I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated. And I was not watching the clock, which is why I'm a little bit late. I was distracted by other things. So good to have you guys. Good to be back talking toys. I realized, last week that I talked about Legions Con. I talked about my Legions Con experience, but I didn't actually talk about Mythic Legions that much. So today I'm going to talk about the Mythic Legions Reign of the Beasts wave. Some pretty cool stuff in there. Some stuff that I don't necessarily need either. So I'll talk a little bit about, where I'm at with Mythic Legions as well. And then I'm going to talk about play sets. We all think we want them, but are we getting what we thought we wanted? Or do we not know what we want? What's going on with play sets? Brick says, give me rational and joyous toy talk. Well, I mean, there's certainly, it's certainly going to be joyous. Rational, there's some rational things that are just going out the window right now as far as certain things in the toy world. But we'll talk about that. So this is driving me crazy. Hold on. I almost always have it set up a particular way. That's better. That feels more on point for sort of how I set this up. Larry's Geeky World is here. Ostradamus Toys. Allison Troy says, greetings, my crunchy, dusty curmudgeons. Oh, not us. Not this bunch. JMac77 is here. John from the Collecting Brothers. I always presume it's John. John, if it's not you, I apologize. But I guess Josh just has better things to do than to watch my show, which is fine. He's young. He's got things to do. I get it. Let's see. Jeff Morris is here as well. Red 5. Good to have you, buddy. Let's see. Allison Troy says, where's my hyena? Allison, I don't know. New Jersey, presumably. Did you order one? They're available. Just like the commercial says, available now, or whatever the commercial says. I can't remember. Jeff Moore says TVC is the only toy line that makes playsets anymore. And I will talk about the TVC playsets for sure. Because I think as far as toy lines that are effectively making playsets, they're one of two that I sort of look at as doing it well. So Larry Reed is here as well. John says, yeah, it's me. Brick asks, is Josh real? That's a good, is he like an AI generated? Does John filter his thoughts? I do actually, now that I think of it, Josh is always the sort of dissenting voice among the two of you. So I wonder, is that just is it all a front? Jeff Moore says, okay, that is not true, but TVC does make playsets. Yes, there's other, and there's, I'll be honest, there's another company that does playsets, and they actually do them really well. They don't do a ton of them, but you know, I will use them as reference when I sort of get around to that. Ray Paz is here as well. Allison Troy says, I just wanted to whine about something, and whining about hyenas is what the kidults are doing. People aren't whining about the hyenas. That's that's one thing we've got going for us right now is we're not getting complaints. People aren't complaining about our brand, which is great. Red 5 says, I get Wave 4 tomorrow. That is awesome. You are absolutely going to love them. Brian Brink is here as well. Let's begin. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, of course, as I mentioned, was the release by Mythic by the Four Horsemen of Mufasa. And no, I'm just kidding. But the fact that they released a lion and hyenas effectively in the same wave is to me kind of funny. It is also, in a weird way, I'm going to say, it sort of feels like a compliment to Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, because we have an oversized lion and we have a hyena. So it's not, I'm not going to say that we invented those animals, but, we did put them up for pre-order first. Just saying. Anyways, I will share my screen here. This wave is phenomenal. Of course, it was all revealed at G-Con. So a couple weeks ago at Legions Con, on the Friday before the actual Legions Con convention, which is Saturday and Sunday, the Four Horsemen do their sort of big reveal for the year. They've done this the last few years, and so it becomes sort of a part of the weekend. It becomes a part of the event. This weekend was crazy, or this year's weekend was crazy because it was the 10th year of Mythic Legions. It was also the 25th year of the Four Horsemen Studio. So they really had to come with something bigger. They had to come with something better, and I think they did. Now, full disclosure, this whole wave isn't for me. There's certainly things that stand out for me, and there's things that I'm excited for people to get, but I don't necessarily need them. This may surprise you guys, but I have quite an affinity for anthropomorphized animal characters, human animal characters. So feel free to guess which of this wave I'm most excited about. But the whole wave looks fantastic, and there's things going on that I haven't really necessarily heard people talking about, or haven't. I admit that I've been very, very busy with other stuff. There might be these conversations going on, but I think the dragon really was the overwhelming sort of attention grabbing thing of the weekend. I'm really excited about the tabletop role play game. As somebody that just started playing Dungeons and Dragons with my 9-year-old and a couple of her friends, I love the idea that I'm going to be able to pull legions off the shelf and we can play them sort of as characters. So I'm really, really excited about that. I'm really excited about the dragon. Don't get me wrong, but there's a very, very, very slim chance that I'm actually going to get the dragon. So it's kind of a moot point. It's sort of like, oh, you released an amazing thing that I'm not going to buy. That's cool, but it doesn't really factor into my life as such. But this wave is great. I'm not even going to necessarily bring up the ones that I'm sort of not as excited about, because I'm not as excited about them. I will sort of, you know what? I'll bring them all up, but I'll bring them up sort of in the order of how excited I am of them or how much I have to talk about them. Serpent Spire Royal Guard. I'm just not into snake men in this in sort of this capacity. This thing looks really, really cool, but I didn't get into Mythic Legions for for this. I got into it for elves and orcs, and this is just a little beyond what I'm interested in. And I've said this before. It's more so that I can get more of the other stuff than it is because I don't like this. This figure looks phenomenal. The bendy tail looks really, really cool. Lots of new parts, lots of cool stuff going on. just not for me. In a similar vein, you know, lots of cool stuff going on here with the sort of more evil Jin. So we got a Jin with the Poxus wave, but this Jin feels a little more Jin-like. I don't know if that makes sense. But you know, the fact that he comes out of a lamp and the fact that they have this kind of like smoke effect thing. My first impression when I saw this was like, oh, giant slug man. Which I thought was cool too. But it turns out, you know, this isn't quite what I thought it was. You know, it's a genie. It comes out of a lamp, and that's sort of a smoke effect, or sort of the effects of the genie coming out of the lamp, which we're all very, very familiar with. He does, of course, come with legs. I'm very excited about more brute scale figures, but this isn't the brute scale figure that I'm waiting for. When I opened Tharnog in my video, I mentioned, you know, what I want is more brute scale orcs. Like, really, I just want more big orcs. You know, maybe a big vampire, maybe a big forest creature. Like, if we could get sort of like a Bryophytus version 2 on a brute scale, or Faunus in brute scale, Faunus version 2 as brute scale, I'd be all about that. But as I said, I don't need everything, and this just doesn't really do as much for me. Araya the Talon Bearer, really, really cool figure. Don't get me wrong. This is a really cool figure. I do want this. I do want this, but not enough to buy the rest of the figure. Again, as I said, like a cool figure, but you know, altogether, you know, head to toe, not something that I necessarily need. You know, maybe I'll come around in the time between now and when these get released. I may sort of come around on most of these. There's one that there's two that I won't come around on, just because, like I said, the Jins don't do anything for me. It's not. I don't care for it. Nor do I care for the sort of Roman legion type of characters. I don't care for the gladiators, and I don't care for the golden pride of Leandor. But this is one of the things that I don't think people have been talking about, and this is sort of interesting to me, because sort of lost in the discussion of a really, for lack of better explanation or better term, you know, with the release of a highly articulated dragon, the fact that mythic legions are becoming more articulated, I think, has been a little bit lost. In sort of the mythic community, I think people are talking about it. You know, people are talking about, oh, this is, you know, they're pushing the line forward and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't really heard anybody that's sort of been on the fence about mythic legions, and some of them due to the lack, or the perceived lack, of articulation. But when I was looking at this guy, what I realized is this guy's got double jointed knees and he's got double jointed elbows. Both of those are brand new to Mythic Legions. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first wave where we've seen that, and we actually see it in a couple figures. Which, again, I don't care about this figure insofar as, you know, the character, but in terms of what this is doing for sort of the next waves, or what we might see in the next waves, there's some really interesting stuff going on here. So you can see there the double jointed knee. You can see the elbow. You know, you can see the elbow is a separate piece, which, you know, indicates the double jointed elbow. And this exactly. Brooke said he also has butterflies. They broke it down during G-Con, hyena, and others too. Yes, the hyena does, the lion does, and this guy does. So there's like pretty serious advancements in the articulation scheme that the Four Horsemen are using. So, you know, that figure is important, despite the fact that I don't want it. Well, I mean, it's important for the Four Horsemen and for Mythic Legions, but before I get into the three that I do want, let me just backtrack here in the comments and see. what you guys were saying. Oz said the Mythic Legions RPG. Absolutely. Very, very excited for that. I'm also excited to get miniatures of characters that I already have, because there's nothing better than having duplicates of the same characters. J-Max says Leo Odysseus is such an amazing figure. Sets the bar, in my opinion. I agree. Leo Odysseus is by far my favorite in the wave. We will get there. Brick says no copying. Anthropomorphized animals are in the zeitgeist. We're getting 2 massive blue lions soon from Noda and Fury Toys. Got a red rhino and cat from Zezre, and so much more. Absolutely. There's animals, coming from a whole bunch of companies. And if anybody's ripping anybody off, we're all ripping off like Mickey Mouse, or probably further back than that. But is Felix the cat older than Mickey Mouse? I can't remember. Winnie the Pooh would be, now that I think of it, because he's in the public domain. So that means he's 100 years old. Felix the cat, I think, has been in public domain longer, which is why I kind of stole the design for my design. But yeah, I mean, it's been around forever. I mean, the idea does not belong to anybody. Can't tell me that Hasbro doesn't watch what the third parties are bringing out in Transformers, and then like magic, they bring out that guy. No, I don't think that's true. It is flattering that that people would even sort of consider, Spiro Toys, what Spiro Toys is doing in the conversation of what the Four Horsemen is doing. And I think, I don't want to speak for Jason, but I think he'd probably agree that, like, the fact that there's more animals actually benefits us in the long run. So, Solo Sinner is here as well. I saw you sneak in there, Solo Sinner. Oz says, I enjoy me some snacks. I know a lot of people are really, really excited about those snakes. And they look fantastic. And I did get the whatever the Snake Man was that was the exclusive for my daughter. She absolutely loved it. So I'll be honest, there's a decent chance that I'll probably pick up that Serpent Spire Royal Guard. Or a second Basilia for her. Brick says the Mexica snakes are my jam. Bring them. Maybe someday. Mexican, Arab, Chinese, and Japanese characters inspired by these cultures might actually be human, like the Euro Knights and Roman dude. Yeah, it's a weird way to sort of introduce some of these kind of cultural design things. Like I have mixed feelings about some of that stuff, but anyway. J-Max says these snakes will look great with your Motu Snake Man. I think you're probably right. Jeff Moore says I like knights, barbarians, and horses from Mythic Legions the most. That's I think you and I are kind of in a similar mindset, maybe different lanes, but similar mindsets. Like I sort of have a particular thing that I want from Mythic Legions, and it's not everything. I'm not a completist, so I know a lot of people that are like, knights and skeletons are their thing, and I'm not really into either of those. So it's everybody's sort of got different preferences. I like that Mythic Legions is doing more stuff. There's a lot of diverse characters coming out here. And I don't mean diverse in the in the sense that the word sort of gets thrown around. I mean, we've got a red djinn and a blue djinn. We've got dragons of different styles. We've got snakes. We've got lions. I mean that there's anyway. Moving on. Let's see. And Ray Pat that's what I'm talking about. Ray Pat says, oh damn, if they start doing that, I'm in. And they are starting to do that. That's the thing. And Red 5 says, I find the Roman warrior out of place from what I know about Mythic Legions. And that's kind of where I'm at, is that like I don't need this guy because I'm not into Mythic Legions to get sort of Roman stuff. I like the medieval sword and sorcery type of thing is what I lean more towards. Which is why even like the snake stuff is like, it's great. But but it's not what I'm looking for, right? So Oz says 3.0 bodies, brick something 3.0, absolutely. So 3.0, for anybody that is not aware, is these newer bodies with increased articulation, and we're gonna have like 8.0 before we know it, because I think at this point the cat's out of the bag, that the Four Horsemen can kind of do whatever they want. And I think it's just a matter of time. Like, they're calling it the 3.0 body, but like, wouldn't the brute scale or like, I guess a goblin's on a 2.0 buck, it's just modified parts. Would brute scale be 3.0, or would a troll be 3.0? Like, how do they determine what's a 3.0 now? Because they have more than 3 body types. I don't know. It's just confusing at this point. Sean Forrester says, I'm getting this Legionnaire to go with the large lion figure, lion mask all the way. Yeah, I mean, that's the Golden Pride of Leandor is meant to be like Leodysseus's kind of tribe, his little sort of guard, I guess. Like, he needs a guard. But Solo Center says, yes, I'm actually hyped for the Centurion because of the new buck. Curious to see what the new human sculpt looks like. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it too. Like, I'm curious to see, like, going forward, they talked about how we're going to have a line of like version 2s of some traditionally hard to find characters and stuff, with Otho, of course, being in there. I'm curious to see if we're going to get 3.0 bodies for some of those characters, because that's going to be wild. And Oz says this is from their first age, so in their history, it's before their knights. You know what? I think a lot of that's going to be lost on people. I think a lot of people are just going to buy this stuff because it's cool. I think they're wanting to introduce more lore, and I think more than anything, the new lore might just confuse people that are coming in later. Anyway, we'll see. If only there was a show that they could watch to learn about all that kind of stuff. Jeff Morris says, I think Savage, Crucible, AWOC, etc. is making Mythic Legions get better with articulation, and that is great. I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I think when the Four Horsemen started Mythic Legions 10 years ago, there wasn't much competition in the space that they were operating in. So, independent toy line, sword and sorcery, you had to think that there was a little bit of like a Lord of the Rings influence there. And Conan and Frazetta and like all that stuff, because we weren't getting Mezco figures, we weren't getting Super 7 Ultimates, we weren't getting, I'm trying to list off things that have done things in those. We didn't have the Frazetta girls, we didn't have Savage Crucible, we didn't have all these brands. So I think I don't get me wrong, some of those brands did exist 10 years ago. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we didn't get some of those characters, some of those figures. I do think that the market, they're seeing what people are buying, right? They're aware of what people are interested in, and I do think there is sort of a knock-on effect of some of these newer companies doing better articulation or something different that sort of makes the Four Horsemen reconsider the articulation scheme, or reconsider the price point, or reconsider whatever it is. I still think that Mythic Legions and the Four Horsemen have a very strong following, and for good reason. They do great work. They have great customer service. Like, the company is just fantastic. So, they'll continue to do very well. I don't think they're hurting. Larry's Geeky World says Leodysseus may be my first Mythic Legions figure. That'll be a great pickup, I'll tell you. I will. You'll be. I think you'll be very impressed, and then I think you might get your second figure and be disappointed, because I think that Leodysseus is going to be like next level. Oz says Victoria and I opened our snakes together, and I feel honored. Absolutely, that was a on Ostradamus Toys Clubhouse Hangout. Opened it on Saturday night there, so yeah, it was really fun. Brick something. I'm all in on this wave, trying to figure out my extras. Brick, is this the first wave you've been all in on? I think you're typically more of a cherry picker, but I know how excited you've been about this wave. Is this your first all-in wave? Allison Troy says all the animals are Caucasian underneath. I don't know. Trevor's here. What's going on, Trevor? Good to have you. Brick says, aside from the 3.0 talk earlier, there's something to be said about a whole new lower body type. Their snake body is dope, and I see the engineering through line to the dragon, etc. Give me mermaids. Oh, they've said more than once that there's a lot of water on the map, and so they wouldn't rule that out. So I wonder. That would be cool. And I think you could appeal, not to say that there aren't lots of ladies that love legions. There's in fact a whole YouTube channel of ladies that love legions. And you should definitely check them out as well. But it would be cool to see, and mermaids and mermen. But I think you could sort of lean into the mermaid side of it and actually appeal to a lot of, again, you could open it up to a lot of collectors that potentially, see knights and skeletons and it doesn't really do anything for them. So, okay, let me try to catch up here by skipping some comments. Sorry, guys. Brick says, 1-6 shooter, bring on the mermaids, merman, and you better give me some dope underwater photography. Brick says, all in on Necro and one of the All-Stars. Oh, okay. I didn't know. All in on Necro. Really? I didn't know that. Larry said, I'm already into too many toy lines to start another. That is fair. I totally get it. And Amanda says that was the first thing I thought of when I saw the snake too. Interesting. Let's see. Odd says, imagine the sculpt and paint apps on a mermaid tail. That would be wild. And imagine if they did what they did with the Jin here as well, where you could get a tail, but you could also get like legs as like an alternate. So you could have like an on land, off land type scenario. That would be what I would love to see. Okay, back to the wave and the figures that I am definitely getting. Don't love the snakes, but definitely need Basilia. Basilia being, the sort of the leader, the figurehead of the convocation of Basilia. Obviously, it's named after her. She's definitely a must buy. The figure's amazing too. There's no denying that this figure is stunning and is going to look really, really gorgeous on any collection shelf. The new wings, the bendy tail, the plumage, like everything that's going on there is just amazing. I really, really love this figure. It's outside of what I typically collect in Mythic Legions, as I've just been saying, but it's Basilia, so it's an instant buy for me. The next one, of course, is going to be the hyena. It's not a hyena. I know it's not a hyena. It's a gnoll. But getting a hyena in Mythic Legions is sort of a no-brainer. The thing looks phenomenal. Again, we get the double jointed knees, the double jointed elbows, but beyond that, we get the... Someone please put it in the comments because I can never remember the name. Digitigrade? Digitigrade? I don't know. He's got the legs that go like backwards before they go forwards. You know what I mean? So there's going to be extra articulation in this figure that we haven't really seen in Mythic Legions yet. And so you get articulation, you know, at the ankle that we normally do, but I think there's articulation here as well. When you spin them around, you can see the disc there. You can see that double jointed knee. You can see the double jointed elbow on there. This thing looks amazing. I have now forgotten if the tail is bendy, but my guess is, given that most of the tails that we've seen on the last few animals, I'm thinking of Monkey King. I'm thinking of the Snake Man. I suspect that this tail is going to be a bendy wire tail as well. And yes, I can't highlight it. Why won't it let me highlight it? There it is. Yes, digitigrade. Digitigrade. It just rolls right off the tongue. But that's the digitigrade. That's what the word is. But it's that leg, that animal leg, which I think opens the door for a lot more figures. And the fact that we get that same sort of leg articulation with Leodicius, I want to see it on more stuff. I can't wait to see more of that stuff. And you get the alternate, open mouth. So I think, at least 2 hyenas is probably the order to make. Yeah, like, just look at how cool that guy looks. Used to be nice, but now he's mean. I don't really like that backstory. I think mine are going to be nice, but maybe a little gray area. So these guys are meant to be Legion of Aether, and if you know Mythic Legion's lore, that means they're bad guys. But I feel like maybe they'll be bad guys, but not bad guys in my headcanon. So yeah, there you go. That's Windajiji, the cackler. Windajiji, the cackler. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm never gonna call it that. But that's okay. Tardigrade is the microscopic animal. Yes, it's yes, I know that. Let's see. Christopher Bouchard says, I'm kind of out of the Mythic Legions for now, and that's totally fair. I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that have been Mythic Legions collectors that were collecting them, for elves and knights and skeletons and dragons and things like that. That might be out for a minute. I think Mythic Legions might sort of circle back, and they might come back around to knights and skeletons once they get some of this stuff out. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to move away from knights and skeletons, but I do think if these waves are as successful as I anticipate they will be, I could totally see them going back to knights, but adding, double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, adding more articulation, and then having sort of options for people. I think the fact that they're using that sort of Glyos type system in this scale as well kind of means that they can do both, which I think is really, really cool. K-Mac is here as well. Good to have you, buddy. All right, Leodicius, without a doubt, this was the highlight of this wave for me personally. Seeing this at G-Con, and then actually getting to see, so when Joe Faspolo was packing up the displays, we had finished packing up our Spiro table, and he just sort of had it out on the counter. So Leodicius was just out, no glass. I could get right up close to it, look at the detail. It is stunning. And I know that that's not, the factory one, but typically their samples to factory translate really, really well. So I'm very excited about this. Wired cape, wired soft goods, ogre scale figure, but bigger than an ogre scale because of the digitigrade legs. But then the fact that this isn't just any ogre, like this is head to toe a new sculpt. So we get, articulation In the torso, we get the butterfly joints. We get, you know, on and on and on. This thing is absolutely stunning. You get the alternate face plates as well, which is so cool. You get sort of normal, noble looking lion. You get kind of angry lion, and you get really angry lion. I'm not gonna buy 3 of these to display all 3 faces. With the hyena, I'll get 2. This guy, I think, is just a one and done because it's Leodicius. You can't have 2 Leodicius. Now, if they did a second lion, I would totally grab a second lion. But this thing is just absolutely beautiful, you know, majestic in every way, and I absolutely cannot wait for this figure. I'm so excited for this one. But then beyond this, as I said, you know, what this Brick can attest to this. When they sort of finished with the wave, my first reaction was, you know, for the 10-year anniversary, I thought they'd do more in this wave. And I know why they didn't. You know, they did this, they did the game, they did the dragon, they did the, you know, the books coming along. Like, they got so much other stuff that they just they couldn't dump everything on us all at once. But I'm really excited for the other faction heads. I'm really excited to see Xylona. I'm really excited to see Aetheron. So I think we're gonna, you know, I think the next wave might continue in this way. And to be honest, it's probably better. Well, it is better for finances that, you know, we're not getting all of the great beasts, you know, right in one wave. So let's see. Oz says it was a lot to announce. Yes, it was a lot to announce. But for whatever reason, I was just like, 7 figures. It felt underwhelming. But like I said, it was if you take the wave, it's sort of as the only thing, then it's sort of underwhelming. But when you sort of look at everything that they did, I'm kind of just being a jerk. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. Tyler Lawn says, I hope to see a stag mount. I do too. Although I'm running out of room for mounts, but I feel like a stag wouldn't be that hard. I mean, we've already got Alder. You really just need a new head. Alder's right behind me. I think really, if you just, instead of that moose head, you did sort of a stag head, I would be happy with that. My only concern is that you might have to do a new neck piece too, because the neck piece might have to be a little smaller for a slightly smaller stag head. But I'm not 100% certain. But I want a stag mount as well. And Brick said they announced 2 new toy lines, Infinite Legions and Mythic Legions Legends. Yes, so I mean they're very busy. I'm just a jerk. And Mythic Dolphin, yes, no, I know all the terminology, but it's that there's some that aren't one. There's the 1.0, the 2.0, and the 3.0. But then there's other ones that aren't in there. So why aren't they in there? Is it like, what's the difference? Because you mentioned right there, 6.5 to 7 inch, 6.5 to 7 inch for 1.0, 6.5 to 7 for 2.0. But the goblins aren't 6.5 to 7 inches. So what I'm saying is, if the goblins are considered 2.0, then shouldn't the brute scale be considered as one of the bodies? So 3.0 seems like they've kind of jumped, brute scale, ogre scale, and troll scale, and just sort of like left them out. But brute scale, I think could have been the 3.0 body, because it's not that much. The brute scale isn't taller than the 1.0, then the goblin is shorter than the 1.0, if that makes sense. So that's all I was saying, is that I feel like brute scale should have been in there. I don't know. I don't name the body types. It doesn't matter. The characters are cool. The figures are cool. I'm not super worried about that. But Oz says smaller waves is nice, and we shall see what they do with the legacy line. Maybe it will fill in spots that might have been in larger waves. Yeah, and it sounds very much like All Stars has done, which I'm fine with. In the last 2 All Stars waves, I don't think I bought any All Stars. I just bought like the new figures that got introduced with the All Star figures. So All Stars was fun. I the voting was fun and stuff like that, but the newer figures, just objectively, the newer figures are just better than those figures, in my opinion. Brick says, I hear people say I'm running out of room for mounts, but does that also mean that you won't have room for the 3 figures that the same space would occupy? Yeah. But I mean, if you have a mount, you could put a figure on it. So you do get, there is something there. If you get a mount too and you're really strategic, you can get like a goblin or a dwarf underneath the chin of the mount, then a figure on top. So really you don't lose that much space. I would prove it, but it's off camera. That's how I've got mine set up for the most part. Actually, you can see down here, like Alder's got wizards kind of standing under his chin. So you can kind of fudge it a little bit. Like I'm literally just running out of room for everything. I got to put a dragonfly somewhere. I haven't even opened my dragonfly. Like, jeez. And I haven't even moved on to, the beyond this wave, and it's been 40 minutes. So we should probably move on in a minute here. I'll just quickly catch up on the comments and then we'll move on to playsets. Let's see. JMax77 says, I would love to see the voting come back in some form. That was a fun time in the Cabal. I agree. Maybe there would be, maybe there was like a Hall of Fame, right? You could induct characters into the Hall of Fame somehow or something like that. I don't know. It's sort of like, I just don't know that we need those figures anymore, if that makes sense. Do I need them to remake the red skeleton? No. And I don't know that anybody's asking for that anymore. I think there's too much good new stuff. And I think now that they're moving away from some of those body types, I think there's just more parts for people to play with. And I don't know. The 4 horsemen will tell you that the sales of those all-star figures is tiny compared to the sales of the new figures that have been in the All-Stars waves. So Corn Boys publicly kind of said like he doesn't even really like them because it just doesn't move the line forward. So whatever they do, I'm cool with. There's still a few figures that I would buy if they did re-releases. But that being said, having the choice between Otho version 2 and a re-release of Otho version 1, it would be Otho version 2 in a heartbeat. Like there would be no hesitation whatsoever. Soft goods, new head sculpt, like possibly alternate head sculpt, more accessories, more detail, on and on and on. It's like a no-brainer. Version 2 is the way to go forward. If you want to re-release characters. But the real way forward, I think, is really represented here, right? Like new figures, new characters, new body types, new articulation. I was gonna say do more. that has a very different connotation. I think genuinely the 4 horsemen want to move forward. I think they don't, as much as people sort of look back, I think they want to move forward. And I think the collectors are sort of willing to let them do that at this point. So Ray Pass says, I need to open my dragonflies to make sure my figures are good. Yeah, I literally haven't had the time to do it. The thing's so big that I cleaned my office today with the anticipation that I might be able to open it tonight. Anyways, moving on from Mythic Legion's Reign of the Beasts. Let's talk about playsets. So collectors talk all the time about how much we want playsets, myself included. I love playsets as much as, building dios is enjoyable. My capacity for building dios is severely limited by time and my imagination and my skill level when it comes to sort of creating these things. Most of what I'm doing dio wise is like foam, and it's like basic stuff like walls and floors and things like that. If I make a table, I'm like really sort of branching out. There's people that are making wild stuff out of foam, out of cardboard, like whatever materials they can find, plastics and things like that. They're absolutely amazing. But for a lot of people, it's still easier to just buy something off the shelf. It's not a shelf. I mean, we're probably online ordering all of this anyway. But recently there's been a couple playsets that haven't really been what people have sort of wanted, or sort of weren't what people expected, or I don't know. $250 for this? I have not been paying attention. I don't know why it's $250. I'm sure that people are sort of like Todd has probably explained or justified why it's $250. I look at this and I see a $25 Joker, a $25 Murray Franklin, and then I hate to say it, but like based on McFarlane's pricing, where they've done a Batmobile for what was it, $80 or what? I don't buy McFarlane, so I'm not ragging on them. Their pricing is generally really really crazy good. But then to effectively get this playset that adds $200 to the price, it doesn't actually add up. Is sort of my thing. What I've heard, or sort of what I sort of have gathered through snippets that people are saying, is that it was something to do with like Warner Brothers not really wanting him to make this, and then just sort of making it exorbitantly expensive meant that it wouldn't be perceived as a toy, or that the licensing for the likenesses for Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro were like expensive or something. But $250? Like, I don't really understand it. And I mean, I even kind of look at it, and I know this, like Brick says, best explanation for this I heard was Robo's interpretation of the official McFarlane press release mandate price from the licensor to effectively discourage it from happening. But I don't, I still just like, I don't get it. I still just don't get it. I mean, at $250, is anybody going to buy this? This is one of those occasions where I'm going to objectively say this is not worth $250. Allison Troy says, if anyone pays $250 for this, who hurt you? Ray Paz says, I agree. It doesn't add up. Jeff Morris says $250 for that is plain crazy. It's just weird. Rick Jones says Toddy Mac is acting wild. It's just, there's something off about this, and maybe it is that the licensors basically said you have to make it $250 or we won't agree to let you make it. And then I guess it's just sort of like, if he's making it because he thought the demand was there, you know, it's sort of a case of like put your money where your mouth is. Like, do you really want it bad enough that you're gonna pay $250 for it? I just don't see this happening. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. On a somewhat related note, but for a totally different, but like a totally tangential note, we're gonna move past this. This one is just crazy. I don't really have anything to say about it. It's bonkers. I thought this could be $100, maybe 130, you know, somewhere in that price range. 150 top, but 250. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I don't get it. We got another playset. And by we, I mean NECA fans. I don't mean me. I don't collect NECA Ninja Turtles. And again, there was a lot of issues with the price on this. This I think retail for $300 US, United States dollars. But if you consider, you know, two of these for $300, it doesn't seem so bad. So if you've been living under a rock as a toy collector, NECA sent two of these to a whole bunch of people that only ordered one. Now they're trying to get them back, and they're going about it kind of the wrong way. You know, as speaking from experience, as somebody that has dealt with customers before on misships and errors and things of that nature, I will admit I am wildly enthralled with this NECA soap opera. It is fascinating. It is like literally, you know, you could write a customer service guidebook on how not to do something, and all you'd have to do would be cut and paste what NECA's doing. It's like it is bonkers. Um, it's absolutely bonkers. Let's see. Brick says I'm not getting Bayathir, the Mythic Legion's dragon, because I'm getting that Joker place, which is awesome. They're probably going to be about the same price or somewhere in the same price range. Rick Jones says nobody crazy enough to get that. There's probably some people that are. Jeff Morris, NECA done messed up on this one. He did. Yeah, he really did. Ray Pass says, I bet you the ramen one will be better than the NECA one. I'm not here to talk about that. I think the one that ramen's doing is it'll be as good, if not better, and it'll be cheaper. So, the only company whose customer service has more spice than NECA's is Spiro Toys. That's what I've heard too. Jeff Morris says, sadly, I think someone is getting fired at NECA over this. I don't know. I mean, this is a weird one. I'll get through the comments and then I'll sort of circle back to like my opinion on this. Like I said, I don't have any skin in the game because I don't collect Ninja Turtles from NECA. I thought the pricing on these to begin with was really high. And now, anyway, NECA has a big hole to climb out of. Sean Forrester, NECA should have contacted their legal team first. Here in the US, we have laws about this. Yeah, it's really weird. Allison Troy, NECA is probably looking at a class action lawsuit over this one, to be honest. Rob Zamora, I couldn't agree more. I saw better dials at Legion's Con than this thing. So here's a playset that people, there were a lot of people that really wanted this. Okay, let's be clear. Let's sort of set the groundwork here. Price aside, there were a lot of NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collectors that were really excited to get this. They got like the living room, then they get Donnie's lab, and I think they're doing like the kitchen too or whatever. They were priced at $300, which, oof. I think, like, I think the price was too high. Then they shipped them, and a whole bunch of people that ordered one got two. It was fairly well known in like collector groups that people had accidentally gotten two. There were lots of people that flipped their second one either to pay for the first one or make some money. You know, I don't think anybody was selling them for less than the retail price, but and then all of a sudden, NECA kind of out of nowhere sends out a notice via email to collectors that they believe got two, I guess. And I'll put a pin in that for a second. So they sent out an email to people that they believe they shipped two of these labs to basically say send it back. If you don't, you're never allowed to buy NECA toys again. or from them. I mean, you could go to Walmart and buy them or whatever, but like basically threatening customers, paying customers that were shipped something that they didn't ask for with you know, a ban hammer effectively. Now, if that's not crazy enough, they sent a second email that basically said, and if you don't ship it back, you know, within our time frame, we're going to charge we're going to assume you're not sending it back, and we're going to charge your card. That ain't how it works. That's not how it works. You don't have to be a legal expert to know that is not, there's no way that they can do that. You asked for one, they shipped you two. If that was logically the way that things worked, companies would just be shipping things to people without them asking all day, every day. You think you get a lot of spam mail in your Hotmail account? Your doorway would be stacked with parcels that you didn't ask for every single day for the rest of your life. If they could try to, if that's the way that this could operate. And I forgive me, you know, somebody mentioned in the comments, like, you're not allowed to do that in the US. You're not allowed to do that anywhere. Like, I don't think that's like allowed anywhere. It's crazy. Okay, so here's my thoughts on this, and then I'll move on to like playsets that make sense, that are priced correctly. If they sold this for $300, in my best estimation, this thing couldn't have cost them more than $150. If you know, somebody has to be in charge of getting an email ready, sending that email out. In theory, if everybody that got a second one sent it back, you'd still have to have somebody that would process the return, double check the product, then turn around and like reship it. So there's a whole bunch of man hours involved in this as well. So that's going to increase, you know, the overall cost of this like whole thing as well. What they should have done is just written these off and moved on. And you know, they should have taken a little financial hit. Basically, they wouldn't have made any money on all the ones that they double shipped. But they should have just taken the loss and moved on. Lesson learned. You know, somebody gets fired in the shipping department, or you know, make an example of somebody. I know it sucks, but I mean, somebody made a mistake, so that's a pretty big mistake. You know, but honestly, they should have just. They should have just put this down as like, you know, a hard lesson to learn. Honestly, like it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers the way that they're going about this. But anyway, let's see. There's a lot of comments, so I want to go through the comments, and then. But before I do, I'll go through the comments. But I just wanted to just sort of share, just because because these are great. They're 1/18 scale. But you know, Joy Toy does these like modular play sets for, you know, $60 US. You get sort of a chunk of the, you get a chunk of it. So it's called Mecha Depot. 1/18 scale, like I said. So it's not going to suit everybody's needs, but you know, $60 a set, you buy a couple different sets, they all sort of work together, kind of like a Lego system there. There's also like the Fext system, FEXT. There's lots of 112 sort of system type play sets. I don't know where the pricing comes for the $250 Joker set. I don't know where the pricing comes for a $300 lab. These are obviously smaller. There's less detail. There isn't licensing. This is it's a Joy Toy in-house, license. It's called Battle for the Stars. But, even if you had licensing onto $60, like that would be no more than $100. So then you scale it up and call it 200. It's crazy. All I'm saying is playsets are entirely doable. They're entirely doable at an appropriate scale. NECA could have and should have just been like, hey, we made a sewer layer. You can use it for whatever NECA toys you want, and then not paid a licensing fee for it and just made it look Ninja Turtle-ish. And then sold an accessory pack where you get like a TV and whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to run anybody's company, except mine. But it boggles my mind why people can't do it. Jeff Morris, I think it was, mentioned TVC. So the Star Wars Vintage Collection is doing playsets as well. They're a little on the expensive side for typically what you get, but I still think they're pretty good. I got a couple of the Mandalorian cantinas. I didn't get the Mos Eisley cantina, although I did think it was priced pretty well for what it was. But yeah, playsets are entirely possible. Why do people just keep screwing them up? Just make something that works. It doesn't have to be crazy, and it doesn't need to be expensive. Let's see. Christopher Bouchard, I like this. I really don't like NECA. I'm with you, Christopher Bouchard. I had my own, ordering from NECA Direct experience, and it was not good. And I kind of was, I wanted to give NECA a chance. I really wanted to give NECA a chance. There was a couple figures that I wanted, and it didn't happen. And I don't buy NECA products. So, Brick Something says, to be real though, people who got an extra high ticket and high bulk item that they didn't order and didn't contact NECA to say, what's up, and try to keep it, shady. I agree, on an ethical level, I completely agree. However, I'm not taking any sort of ethical or sort of moral stance on the situation. I'm trying to be sort of an objective observer. And from a legal standpoint, there's really, like, NECA really has no legal grounds to even ask for them back. They shipped it. Knowing what I know about logistics and how things get shipped and how things get processed and all that kind of stuff, this is not on any customer. And you get a $300 item, that arrives at your door and you didn't order it. I agree with you, Brick. Like, I personally would reach out and I'd say, hey, I ordered one of these and I got two. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, how should I proceed? And if they said, here's a mailing label, please send it back, I absolutely would. But that's not how NECA did it. So that's why we're talking about it. Allison Troy says, NECA has no legal foot to stand on for asking for these back. And if they try to charge people's cards for this, it will likely involve the Federal Trade Commission, because they can't just do that. 100%. From a legal perspective, NECA's kind of screwed on this. Although if you want to bring ethics and morality into this, there's a kind of a weird thing if you choose to keep it. I get that. If you got it, didn't hear anything from NECA, and here's the other thing, and I will say this, okay? in the defense of people that have sold theirs already, there may very well be people that emailed NECA and said, "Hey, I got an extra one of these. What do you want me to do?" And NECA didn't reply. NECA is notoriously bad at replying to emails. Anecdotal, but my personal experience with NECA is that I ordered something, they didn't ship it in 90 days or like within like close to 90 days. And for financial reasons, like if something doesn't get shipped within 90 days, you know, you have to file a reverse on your credit card if they don't sort of. So I was getting a little bit worried about that. And so I emailed NECA and I said, "Hey, are you going to ship these things out?" I didn't hear anything. I emailed again. I said, "Are you going to ship these things out?" I tried to message them on Instagram. I tried to message them on Facebook. I got zero reply from NECA whatsoever. The only way that I got, and I ended up getting my order canceled because I was over it by the point that I had to go through, like, I had to look up like the like NECA's business information. I found the phone number. I phoned NECA, and the person that picked up was clearly like somebody sitting in an office. Like NECA has an office somewhere. It was clearly like the receptionist at the office. And I said, "Hi, I bought something online and I want a refund." She's like, "Why are you calling me?" I was like, "There's no one else to contact. I don't know." She's like, "Okay, well, I have to put you in touch with whoever." And so she kind of connected me. But there was literally no way to get in touch with NECA. So I'm not saying this happened, but I'm saying I would 100% believe somebody if they said, "I emailed NECA and said I got an extra one," and they didn't do anything. I would 100% believe that. So, you know, again, I would have been somebody that would have sent mine back. You know, as soon as I got the return shipping label, no problem, no questions asked. I'll send it back. You get it to the next guy. But NECA's reputation precedes them in this case, and I think they've not done much to sort of. They've not done much in this circumstance to change people's opinions. Let me see. Okay, so this brings up another point. So Allison Troy says they are also going to have to prove that they send a second one, and based on how this went, there's no way to accurately prove who did and didn't get a second product. I have seen people comment, now maybe they're just covering their bases. I've seen people comment that they got the email, but they didn't get two. So what are they supposed to send back? I don't know. And I don't know if that's accurate or whether that's just somebody trying to sort of set a precedence and say, "Hey, I didn't get a second one." They should be, if they figure out where the error was created, they should be able to figure out which ones got sent out, and presumably they would have tracking on the packages so they would be able to confirm where they landed. But, you know, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. I'm skipping over some of the comments. You guys are sort of chatting. Allison and Brick, you guys are sort of going back and forth. I think I don't think you guys are necessarily arguing sort of the same thing, because I think Allison is arguing sort of a sort of legal, sort of logistical, sort of logical thing, and I think Brick, you're sort of arguing for the ethical component of it, which, let's be honest, I don't know that there's. I would suspect that the majority of toy collectors will do everything they can not to ship this back. None of you guys, obviously. The other ones, the other collectors that don't watch this show. Let's see. Gabriel, this is exactly it. What's worse, in my opinion, is they're angering the people that are probably some of their best customers who are willing to pay that price tag for this. That's exactly it. There's people that were willing to pay $300 for this thing, and now NECA's hassling them. In some cases, because they got an extra, but potentially in some cases not. So I don't know. Rob Zamora says I was actually charged. Oh, I didn't see this part. They sent out an email just like NECA. Oh, this is okay. Sorry, I didn't. There was a break here. Okay, so Rob Zamora says, so when Radiohead released the 20th anniversary vinyl box edition, they sent out extra, and it was the same deal. Okay, now this is making sense. They sent out an email just like NECA telling us we would be charged if we didn't send them back. I was actually charged. That's crazy. And they got away with that. I'm not familiar with that. So I don't know. Maybe there is precedence, but again, it's just weird. Let's see. A bunch of people are saying, yeah, take the loss and move on. You're just making people angry. Yeah, they can't win. They just can't win. Like, even if they get them all back, it's going to cost them. Like, honestly, it's probably going to cost them as much, if not more, to get them all back, inspect them, and then ship them back out. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Just make more of them. It doesn't make sense. Sean Forrester says Joy Toy Dio sets are great. They are. Joy Toy is awesome, but can get expensive. Yes, some of the figures are very expensive. Admittedly, I think the playsets though are pretty good value for money. I have one and intend to get more for Cyberzoic, so that's why they sort of came up in my brain here. And Brick says, I think the real key to playsets in the 2020s is that modularity right there in those Joy Toys, and make them so that they fit in typical shelving. Yep, exactly. Think about a D12, think about, whatever random shelf, think about the average sort of shelf depth, shelf width, all that kind of stuff. And if you make them modular, you kind of, it's best of both worlds, because the one that I have is actually up there. You can't see it. But the one that I have, I didn't build it the way that Joy Toy has it set up. I built it so that it sort of fits across my shelf rather than sort of deep. And it's great. And like I said, I want more of them. I'm just sort of waiting to decide which ones, when, as Cyberzoic gets here, I'll try to figure out, where would the dinos fit and what will fit where. Ray Pass says, I got Joy Toy sets, from Ahia Joe's. Absolutely. Good call. Yeah. Let's see. Christopher Bouchard just got the Spiro Toys a Hawken this weekend. It's awesome, and your review sold me on the figure. Nice. It is a great figure. It's definitely in my top 10 for 2024 as of right now. So let's see. I'm gonna totally pull this one up. Lots of NECA hate here. I really like their figures, minus the broken joints, and I'm glad they are making toys. I just hope this backlash doesn't fall on the sculptors and artists there. I hope so too. I mean, it's not their fault, and they make stuff that people want. I'm certainly not a NECA hater at all. I hope I didn't give that impression. I just have had issues with the company to the point where I would rather spend my dollar somewhere else. But no hate at all. Just no joy. Just no joy for NECA. Gabriel says, is Spiro going to ask to return the loose hammers that have been coming with our orders lately? No. Yeah. That's we leave those all over the place and give them out at cons. If you're ever at a con staying in the hotel, you usually just find them near the elevators too. We just leave them all over the place. But we, full disclosure, Spiro Toys sent out a bunch of extra figures by accident, and we had people email us and say, what do you want me to do with these? And we sent them return prepaid shipping labels, and they returned them. And if they wanted to keep them, we basically said, that's fine. You keep them if you want them. We know for a fact that there's people that didn't contact us and got free figures. So live and learn. You move on. So yeah. Um, let's see. Um, and Albert, yeah, getting an obvious mistake in order, and your first instinct is to sell it fast. I think we're also assuming that people's first instinct was to sell it fast. And I think there's assumptions being made, all over the place in this regard. Like I said, I'm trying to just objectively look at the situation. And I'm not making any judgment calls. If people got two and they wanted to flip it, I don't know, that is shady. I agree, but I'm not going to tell people that they can't. As I said, there's probably people that sent an email and might not have heard back and might have thought, well, where am I going to put this? And might have sold theirs off. There's people that are probably just sitting on it waiting. There's probably lots of people that'll send them back too. I mean, I don't think we'll ever know the numbers. So, let's see. Let's see. A lot of people with opinions about NECA. I get it. I totally get it. And Sean Forster said, my understanding is that folks got these months before NECA said anything. I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't paying that close attention, but it does seem like there was a big gap between, and people were like openly saying, I got two and I don't know what to do with them. And it seems like there was quite a delay. So, yeah. Let's see. Ray Pass is willing to admit that he'd be shady and keep the figures. Well, a lot of people did. So I did, it is what it is. Like like I said, from a business perspective, as somebody that deals with customers daily, sometimes you just have to take a hit, and NECA should have just taken a hit on this. Yeah. So Gabriel says, this actually kind of brings up an interesting point, and I'll sort of wrap up on this. So Gabriel says, fun fact, I bought the NECA lab, never got a shipping notification. It showed up one day months ago, and it still appears as unfulfilled on the order page on their site to this day. Clearly something happened. Clearly there was a disconnect between people pulling orders and people sort of processing them through the system. Gabriel got one, but it says that he didn't. Does that mean he's still going to get another one? Would NECA know that they'd sent him a second one? Again, like there's so many questions. There's like, this is like a Scooby-Doo mystery. Like I feel like in a year from now or 2 years from now, there could be an Unsolved Mysteries episode about Donnie's lab. But it's I don't know. I'm watching this as an observer, as an outsider, as somebody that literally, like I said, has dealt with over shipping and sort of double shipping. It's this is fascinating to me. And Rick Jones says site is glitched. Clearly it is. Jeff Moore says their new distribution software is all effed up. They can't get product to retailers properly either. Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. I don't know what the cause is. I don't know what the sort of end will look like. But it's just wild. It's just wild. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. Like I said, playsets shouldn't be this hard. It's just weird that sort of in the time frame that we're looking at, the most sort of popular playsets have been the HasLab one, which there was lots of discussion on that. I didn't even talk about that one today, but there's this Joker one, there's this NECA drama. it's a mess. I mean, playsets are, people think it should just be easy, right? It should just be easy. It's clearly not. It's clearly not. So, anyways, that's kind of all I got. I got to wrap it up because Brick is going to be on at 3:45. So we're about 15 minutes away. And I should get back to some other things, like watching other YouTube shows. I got to check out Brick Show. I'm definitely not going to check out Yimbo, and I will definitely check out Geek Dad Life tonight. So, anyways. Ray Paz, it's good to have you. It's good to have everybody in the chat. Go buy some stock in playsets at your local toy store, and all is right in the world. Exactly. Or go buy some foam and create your own. I mean, that's part of it too. Is that it's probably cheaper. It's probably cheaper to go that route. Anyways, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys, and I will be back next week to talk about more toys. The schedule, actually, next week is Monkey Business. So we'll be talking about Monkey Business is kind of, I think, going to evolve, because I think Monkey Business may have Bushido news as well, and may have some zombie news too, if you guys are lucky. No promises, but if you're into any one of those three, definitely check out Monkey Business next weekend. Katie's Toy says, I'm late again. Team Foam. Well, hello and goodbye, Katie's Toys. It was good to have you. Larry's Geeky World says Cat's Lair is going to be awesome. I think it is. I didn't order one because that thing is massive, but I think it is. I think playsets can be done right, and I think they can be done correctly, but we'll have to stay tuned because nobody seems to be quite getting it just yet. Anyways, until next time, guys, bye-bye.